I kinda regret my building location, so I've decided to relocate my village, and in this video, I'm gonna show you how to move your village or build from scratch. Sorry Gostovia, you were good to me, but New Gostovia has outgrown this location. The new location I've decided to move to is this lake southeast of Denica. So first thing I need to do is decide which area would be the center of my village. There were a few ideas I knew I wanted for this village, so I decided to build on the plains area to the west. I knew I wanted a town square, a large farm surrounding a mill, lakeside housing, and orchards filling out the gaps of the village, so I started with the roads. I built and connected 2 roads directly east and south. It was important that the main roads were built on the north, south, east, west axis for me personally, but this may change for more buildings in time. The first building we'll want to set down obviously is our resource storage, so we have easy access to all of our resources. This won't be the final location, but it'll be a good place until I decide on the final location in town. Now that we have the main road set, we could start on the town square and the main farm. The town square was going to have more of the essential production buildings like the inn, kitchen, and smithy, as well as the resource buildings nearby. I also thought it would be cool to build a well smack dab in the middle of the town square. I set the buildings up and built their foundations at the start, so I could have a general idea of how it would all look, but I would wait to build everything up until the end of planning. I had a couple corners available as well, so to keep it looking consistent, I wanted to fill those corners with food market stalls. After building the inn, I knew I wanted the stable nearby, so I built another road going north towards Denica, and enclosed both the stable and donkey shelter inside. Oh, and I also built the windmill early so I could get a good idea of how it would look. Yeah, that's gonna look good. So I knew I had this idea where I wanted the orchard to the west to line up to roads similar to the orchards in real life, and figured I would build a few houses around them. I would save the planting for later though in case I changed my mind. Unless you have good plans as to where you want your plots, I would advise putting this near the end of your village creation, but since I wanted them to fit perfectly within the parts of my village, it was something I had to take into account early in the building process. If you already have existing farmers, your farmers will likely try and walk over and work on your fields, so if that's a problem for you, you're going to want to plow and fertilize your fields so that they leave them alone. I pretty much ignored my farms for the most part when building since I was already stacked on food and coin, but if you want to keep your farms running, consider building them later or plowing and fertilizing your fields once built. Now for the rest of the production buildings, especially the ones that gather from natural resources, I decided to build them further down south the road, close to the lake. In this little corner I built 2 woodsheds and 2 excavation huts, along with a hunting lodge and an herbalist hut nearby. Since I'd planned to build in the forest next to the lake, I cut some trees down, though I did it sparingly because I didn't want to deforest the area completely. I had plans for houses, but those plans were constantly changing, so I ended up leaving that for last. I didn't want my village houses to be as cramped as my last location, so I figured I could make a few small neighborhoods around the edges of the village. I had some houses set for being around the orchards, the lakeside, and houses around the farm among a few other places. When building some hillside houses, I also decided which house would be mine, and I would later build a nice little farm of my own out front. By the end, I had almost completely forgotten about a market, so I decided to build it south of town square. This little area in the back was a bit annoying to build around since it was slightly on a hill, so I couldn't place a lot of buildings. Initially, I thought about maybe putting some animal pens in that corner, but I ended up filling it with 1 pen and another field. Speaking of animal pens, I had trouble deciding where to put these, so they ended up filling many holes in the village. But it was time to build and move people in. This part took almost more time than the entire planning process because I wanted the best insulated buildings for my villagers, and everything takes wood, so I ran out a lot of times and had to wait for more resources to produce. My previous village was already over the 100% building limit, so I had to max out the limit and remove any unnecessary buildings from the previous village. This might be a PC only thing, by the way, I'm not entirely sure about that. There were still a lot of decorations I needed to place, but I figured I could do that as the village started coming together and looking better. I waited as long as I could before moving any villagers over. But once I had all my buildings set up, I started moving people in and getting them acclimated. Now that the village was set how I wanted, villagers were settling in and working. I changed up some of the roads to vary it a little bit, along with shifting a few animal pens and workplaces here and there. I also still needed to finish decorating the village, and I needed to let time pass to let the orchards grow and get a good idea of how the village would look at its end state. But yeah, here are some shots of the village from above. It took about 2 years in-game to build, and it was a nice way to pass the time. I don't consider myself an experienced village builder by any means. This was my first planned village project, but for what it's worth, I really like it. And it's definitely an upgrade from New Gostovia, which I didn't break down by the way. It was pretty eerie walking through this village in the fog with no inhabitants. Felt like some sort of medieval Silent Hill type thing. This location was one of the locations I talked about when making this video right here. So if you want an idea of some of the best village locations to build in Medieval Dynasty, check it out. But that's all I have for this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video. Take care.